Heren, trappen jullie hem af?
Ja, hallo, welkom allemaal op deze webinar over SAP-testen. Wat we vandaag gaan doen is een power training, eigenlijk een soort samenvatting van wat er in de normale SAP-training zit. En daar trekken we toch wel zo'n 2 dagen voor uit, normaal gesproken. Dat betekent dat er heel veel informatie over jullie heen komt. Maar het is wel een manier om snel een idee ervan te krijgen wat nu eigenlijk SAP is en hoe is dat dan anders als je het gaat testen. Een stukje introductie dan. Pepijn en ik, wij met z'n tweeën doen deze presentatie. Misschien dat je, Pepijn, dat je even een korte intro kan geven van jezelf.
Ja, mijn naam is Pepijn Paap, SME Subject Matter Expert binnen onze club op het gebied van SAP-testen, SAP Business Assurance, Quality Engineering. En daarnaast ook ingezet voor verschillende klanten om ze te begeleiden met het testen, de introduceren van testmethodologie, teststrategieën en gewoon projecten. Momenteel voor HP, een leuk project, uitdagend project, waar we de implementatie doen van SAP voor EMEA. Vanuit mijn rol ben ik ook veel bezig met productontwikkeling, kijken hoe we nog betere aanbiedingen kunnen doen, hoe we het vak nog beter kunnen ontwikkelen. En ja, Volkwin helpt me daarbij. Volkwin, voor jou?
Ja, Volkwin Kloeze. Ik ben SAP Test Manager. Ik doe dat ook al een tijdje. Sinds 2005 ben ik daar eigenlijk min of meer ingerold. Veel projecten gedaan met SAP. Leuke projecten vind ik, grote projecten. Met vaak ook een buitenlandse component erin. Dus je hebt met allerlei mensen te maken. Op een gegeven moment hebben we gezegd van ja, we moeten er iets van een training maken. Nou, die training die heb ik dan ook samen met Pepijn opgezet. En daar is het eindelijk dan nu en daar zitten we voor dan de Power Course uitgekomen. Echt zoveel mogelijk samengevat. Waar gaat SAP testen over? Oké, nou laten we beginnen, want we hebben de tijd nodig. Ik doe zeg maar om 11 even een korte break, dat iedereen eventjes de ogen kan resetten. En dan gaan we starten. Een vraag die ik dan vaak krijg. Overigens, ik ben nu in het Nederlands, maar shall we switch to English? Pepijn?
Let's put it in the chat. So if there are non-Dutch speakers in the audience, let us know. Then we can change it to English, and else we just stay in Dutch.
Ja. Speciaal dan om dit onderwerp denk ik eraan, want vaak wordt me gevraagd van hoe spreek je nou SAP uit? Is het SAP als SAP of is het SAP? Hè? Want in Nederlands is SAP natuurlijk een makkelijk woord en dat kennen we ook van het sapje. SAP staat voor System Analyse Programm Entwicklung, het is Duits. En overal zeggen ze eigenlijk SAP. En SAP is eigenlijk alleen iets wat we in Nederlands gebruiken. Dus in het Engels zeg je dan niet SAP of zo, maar het is echt SAP.
Volkwin, in between, we got a few English-speaking people in the audience. So if you could switch to English, that will be perfect.
Okay, then we switch to English. So next one, why is SAP such an important player in IT? And that's something that you see it more and more. SAP is everywhere. Everywhere you have some components are SAP. SAP is often in the middle of a system landscape. Why is this? Let's take a look here at some figures. So they do a lot. They are really big. So they have a lot of unique customers. They have a lot of partners. SAP works closely together with all kinds of partners to make things possible. They bring solutions for all kinds of industries. you name it, and SAP has a solution for this, or they will develop a solution for it. Or they acquire a solution for this. So they also did a lot of acquisitions, and then bringing some SAP flavor over it, and then they have another solution that they can offer. They do this globally, all over the world, 180 countries, as you can see. The company itself is not for all the revenue that they do and the solutions that they bring is not that big. So they have 100,000, as you can see, employees. So they do a really good job there. And the last one, and it's an interesting one, 77% of global financial transactions has been touched by SAP. So an important driver for SAP, for using SAP, is that it gives a lot of insight in your financials. So that's often the where the company starts, and when it starts, it's always the financial part is the well, so to say, the base of the installation. Aside from that, it is what is SAP? It's a platform, and you manage all your business processes. So you can organize your IT in your company all through SAP. And SAP is really good and at integrating. So they integrate applications, SAP and non-SAP, and then you have your business processes all organized, and they all end up in finance, so that you at any time you can see where am I for my whole company, or for the separate organizations that I have within my company. And another thing is cloud. So cloud is it's the thing now. Cloud is important everywhere. So that's the way things are moving now. And SAP has managed to be the largest in cloud solutions, and they already have 220 million cloud users. So we'll get back to cloud, because that's an important part in the new version of SAP, SAP S/4HANA. And of course, and Pepijn can verify that a question that we often get. So you're a SAP test manager, right? Testing is testing. So why SAP test manager? Well, there are some things specific for SAP. Let's go through these. So for once, it's a specialization. If you're talking about SAP, it's a very large ERP package. There can be well, many solutions within this package, and every part of it has its own specialist. So it's really impossible to be SAP specialist over all the solutions that there are. There's too many, and these are really large. So there are a lot of different possibilities. And when you're talking about testing SAP, and that's an important one, you're always talking about the end-to-end processes. Since SAP isn't out of the box software package, you have to aim at the end-to-end process. So you need to have to focus on that. And important there is, how does SAP integrate? So how do these different parts connect? Because you have SAP packages within this end-to-end modules in this landscape, but also non-SAP. So a good understanding there is really key to well, to make the testing work. Well, and since you are working in such a complex environment, you have these different very specialized modules. Every module has its own stakeholder. So also a thing that you have to keep an eye on from the start of your testing project is, who are my stakeholders? Who is all involved here? Do I have everybody on board? Am I not forgetting anybody? And also let these stakeholders talk to each other, because you have an end-to-end process. A lot of stakeholders are involved, but often they don't even know of their existence, that they work together in this end-to-end process. Another one is test data. So if you want to make such an end-to-end process work, you need to have test data that works from beginning to end. We'll get back on that in more detail, but you can understand that if you choose some test data, everybody has to be able to work with this test data. So that this is one topic that needs specific extra attention. Well, as I said already, SAP is standard software, but, and that's the but, it's you can change so much in SAP, so that you really have to distinguish what is standard SAP and what are improvements, what are the changes. So you can change SAP using enhancements or using customization. So enhancement is programming, customization is setting parameters. So what do you need to test? Well, you need to test the parts that have been changed, and not test the standard SAP parts, because SAP has already made sure that these work. In addition, you have best practices. So the SAP has put quite some effort in there to already predefine a certain module so that it works best on a certain industry, where you would be working in.
I want to add one more thing, just to emphasize, and you already mentioned that. Don't have the impression, if you want to start working with SAP testing, that you can understand the complete SAP solution. It's just way too big. And as soon as you are in a project for SAP, you will notice it's most of the time it's a global project. So the amount of stakeholders, Volkman already mentioned it, it's increasing rapidly, and you need to communicate with all stakeholders on all different layers. So you talk with developers, you talk with functional consultants, you talk with technical consultants, but you also need to talk with the business. You need to talk with your process owners, your global or local process owners. You need to talk with your program manager or project lead. The amount of stakeholders and the ownership belonging to that, it's just so immense that we as test managers, we are actually the classic model of the spider in the web. We need to try to connect all the dots together to facilitate that all are going in the same direction. Because if the people from finance, for example, walk to the left, and the people from logistics walk to the right, and the people from the integration system, they stay in the middle, we will not reach the finish line. We need to convince them what is quality, how do you achieve quality, and because it's such international, there are a lot of challenges with time zones, with traveling, with getting everyone up to speed to have the same focus. And that is a big distinguisher for SAP testing.
Yeah, so to name an example, as Pepijn and myself will work together on a project for Sandvik in Sweden. There they develop an SAP template, but a template at the same time has to has to be used by 50 different countries. So that means for all these countries, you have different stakeholders. So how are you gonna manage this and bringing this over on such a global scale? And when you have some experience in these SAP projects, you know that finance is the most important player here. If you see that they are not present as a stakeholder in your meetings, well, then you know, or immediately know that you have to act. So those are the things that you well, that make that SAP testing specific.
Yeah, and here also the link to test data
from all the technicality.
And then here also the link to test data. So the finance team wants to do some validations if, for example, the product belongs to the correct cost center or profit center, or maybe the general ledger or whatever. But if that master data is not configured correctly in the beginning of the whole process, so it's step one when, for example, I order something, then we go through the whole flow. You order, you go to logistics, you do the ship, you pick, and you go to finance. And then they notice, oh, but it's not in the correct cost center. Or you use the wrong article because we want to validate something on a specific cost center. You need to repeat the whole test sequence again. So bring those people together, let them discuss what they want to validate, what they want to test, and what kind of data they want to use and want to see. That will save you time in the end.
Yeah, so summarizing this, SAP is your entire business process. You're talking about the business processes that are being used there. SAP is in the middle of this, and there are also, and you see that more and more non-SAP modules in this environment. That being said, the entire business process, SAP is a major project. It's a big project. A lot of people are involved, and it's kind of like the business is going on. So you're working there on this SAP in this SAP project, but at the same time, things are live. Things are working. Business is being done. So it's like operating. As you could say on a patient, and making sure everything stays alive. And then you have many different teams. So different teams, meaning a financial team and team that does the warehouse management, a team that does the buy-in. So you have a lot of different teams. Functionally, but you also have different teams around the different countries that work with the same system.
And a lot of technical teams as well. So you have your basis team, your infrastructure team, maybe your authorization team to define your roles and responsibilities. So yeah, it's a lot.
So that's also indeed. So business-wise, but also technically, there is a lot of specialization, and there with different persons at least for all these things, but often it's a whole team that's behind this. So let's take a look at the SAP architecture. There are some things going on there. Traditionally, we have SAP ECC. That's at this 6.0 at this moment, and there, well, you have a kind of classic architecture, and this is being used with a lot of clients and all over the world, and in the Netherlands. Still, they have a lot of ECC around, and it's often called that they're talking about their ECC with a database and connection to internet using NetWeaver. But things have been moving, things are changing. So now we have, as a new version of SAP, we have HANA, and HANA itself is a database. It's a really intelligent database. I'll show some more on these on this. And the thing is, and that's where the catch is. This ECC has an end of life. SAP will stop maintaining ECC, so everybody has to move towards HANA, or maybe, well, say, well, we're going to skip using SAP, but something has to be done there. Well, before I go into more details what it means for you as a tester, let's take a look at what does it look like? What does ECC look like? At the SAP Business Suite. So center of it is a database, a traditional database, a third party, and it has a data-driven user interface. So if you, what does it look like? Well, everybody who has been working with SAP knows, recognizes these screens. These are the some kind bluish screens, and well, they are data driven. They're not really that you say, well, this is state of the art, this is a modern way of working. Not at all. You have this a lot of these things with a folder structure, and then you get into the transactions, into the programs, and there you see a lot of different tabs with header information, detail information. It's not the well, easiest user interface,
and absolutely not user friendly.
No, not user friendly, and that's also yeah, something that you have to be aware of as a test manager. There's a steep learning curve there.
And that's also a challenge. As soon as you need to start testing with the business, and this is the first time they use SAP, then it's not really testing, it's more training. So there is also a very thin line between testing and training. If these people don't know SAP, what will they test? Because they're still experiencing and learning how the system works.
And be aware of that, because the training needs to be done really somewhere. You would like to have it before they do UAT, but yeah, the system is not completely ready for UAT. So where do you train your users? Something to keep an eye on. But to get back to the ECC suite, as I said, finance is an important part there. So there are 3 financial modules. You have finance, financial accounting, controlling, and asset management. And often when you're this is called FICO, the FICO consultants. Those are then the financial consultants working in the project. So if we take a look at this, at financial accounting, there you have your assets, liabilities, and your balance sheet. So loss and profit is in there. So if you, and we'll see an example end-to-end process later on. But if you have an order somewhere, that order ends up here in your balance sheet. What did I do in loss and profit? You have controlling.
And what you see here, just to add on that, Volkan, if you go back one slide. So for finance, now we are in the accounting area, but you see here, for example, the general ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable. This is not one person. Per keyboard, actually, you have a whole team working there. So again, this shows how big SAP can be. It's not one person who is responsible for whole finance. No, you need to talk with people from general ledger. You need to talk with people from accounts receivable, with accounts payable, etc., etc.
Yeah. So only this FICO part. So if you see, take a look at this, what would it mean in your project? You would have a functional consultant there. Who knows how this works from the technical part? Hey, you would have a technical consultant who can do some programming there. Then you have on the business side a whole team of so to say the bookkeepers, the financial administration. And what I show here is what in general, there are many different possibilities, but in general, what a landscape would look like. So often you have in there, you have something that you make orders, sales and distribution, material management. You make orders. For these orders, you need materials, so you manage these. You have some production planning. Then you could have plant maintenance. So all the machines that I have in my factory, when do they need maintenance? And you have quality management. The materials that I send out, do they have the correct quality documents attached to these? If that is not in place, then for a lot of companies, it means that they just can't send their materials out. So it's an important part there. You also have to think about that. So then there are different industry solutions. Let's take a look at this. So they could be called then SAP IS for industry solutions, and then with a dash U for utility. So that's often used at big energy companies. They use a module like this. Let's go back here to the overview. It's all human capital management. That's called HCM to do everything around HR. And for instance, project PS for your project management could also be a module there. So these are the modules that are directly connected to the ECC database. And when you use NetWeaver as a technology, you can connect the internet to your ECC database and to your different modules. So then you talk about SAP SRM, supplier relation management, customer relation management, supply chain management, product lifecycle management, and those are used to connect to your to the different partners that you work with.
Yeah, and nowadays you often also see, so the core is still there, the ECC core is still there, and we will talk about HANA a little bit later. The core is still there, but for example, your SRM or your CRM or even your supply chain management, you often see now that it's an additional application. So not everything is in SAP anymore. Of course, you can do it in SAP, but you see now that some organizations, they implement, for example, for your CRM, they start using Salesforce. So there's also a lot of integration between SAP and Salesforce. So your sales orders are created in Salesforce, your customer relations are maintained in Salesforce, but there is a lot of integration with SAP. Your master data, for example, is maintained in SAP. So there are connections to Salesforce to load your master data and to show the master data and use the data. And there is interfacing back to SAP. As soon as the order is acknowledged, you go into SAP and you do the whole process there of handling, shipping, and the financials.
Yeah, so we'll talk. Pepijn already said we're going to show some more around this and what it means. But that this whole landscape, as we're showing it here, is changing rapidly because everybody has to move towards HANA, and HANA comes with cloud solutions. So that means a different way of working. Aside of this, there are different add-ons. These are the SRM, PLM, SCM. Already told you about these. And then to do your management over all these modules, there is SAP master data management. For instance, there is business process management. You have solution manager. This is a centralized way to support all kinds of data over all the different modules that you use. Let's go back to the overview. So as you can see here, this whole ACC suite is built up out of a lot of different components. They all have abbreviations. So when people are talking about SAP, SRM, MM, so it's a good thing if you start working on a SAP project, you at least have some knowledge about what does this mean, so that you know if they are talking about FICO, that is the financial part, and MM has something to do with then you're in the area of making orders, your materials, and And if you're talking about solution manager, it's a general module that can be used. So there's a lot of specific abbreviations, especially in ECC.
Yeah, what you see in many projects, no, it's an abbreviation landscape. So don't get confused with all the abbreviations. We understand it's a lot to process right now, but in SAP world, yeah, we live on abbreviations.
Okay, let's leave the ECC landscape. Well, the new kid on the block. So HANA, and if you work in SAP environment, there's a lot of buzz on HANA, and you need to do something there. It's the future of SAP. So HANA means a HANA database. That's really the center of it, and it's here pictured within a cloud. So it also means you're working with cloud solutions. So if you take a look at this HANA database, it's a platform. It is a really smart database. It's no longer a third-party database. You really have to acquire this database that SAP has selected for this. There's only one possibility, and it has a lot of different smart things in there. So it has application services, it has processing services, and this all comes with its database. There are a lot of integration services, database services. So there's all kinds of smart technology in there that makes it possible to do new technology. So you can, for instance, you can use a lot of data, and you can process this data really from already at the core from the database. So that means a lot of speed. Well, I will get back to the different possibilities that the HANA database offers.
Yeah. And HANA, the abbreviation actually means high performance analytic appliance. So it already is an indication that this platform is ready for the future, where you can develop your machine learning, your artificial intelligence, your deep learning, and even also know your IoT related things. So this is really the platform for the future. And they actually call it the digital enterprise or the digital core.
Yeah, ECC has reached its limits. If you want to do new technology, HANA is it makes that all possible. So you need to have that in there, the HANA database. Together with the HANA database, and it's another term already, is Fiori, SAP Fiori. That is a new user interface that SAP has developed, especially for HANA, and it looks different. It's completely newly written. It's compiled out of different tiles. You can use this on all different kinds of mobile devices, like on your phone or on an iPad, on a PC, and if all these tiles give certain information. If you click on these tiles, you will get more detailed information.
You can really down drill into the core components of every tile. So you have different kind of tiles with analytics, with progress, with statuses, but also with graphs, and you can really click and down drill to the lowest level. And simply said, Fiori is like a user-friendly layer on top of a transaction. Within SAP, you do everything with transactions. We will come to that a little bit later as well. But this is more or less a friendly layer on top of a user-friendly transaction.
Yeah, because this already looked really different. We saw the different screens with the blue and yellow. Well, this is a whole different experience. And then, of course, we already saw that in the cloud, you have deployment in the cloud. And what does it mean? you can acquire SAP as a service completely managed by SAP. You get automatically, you get your updates. You really don't have to do, you don't have to do that much. You just buy this service. And also there are different flavors, so you can also do this on premise. Then your server is on in your machine park. That could be in the case of you have specific data that cannot be anywhere else but on your own in your own machine park. You can get a private cloud. Then there's a possibility to make agreements on updates. And well, SAP wouldn't be SAP if they all wouldn't have the possibility of mixing all these possibilities to something that really fits the company's purpose. So this is then the core, and here you can use different modules. And if you take a look at this, you have this different database. So you can use the new technology modules, but also all the existing, almost I should say, almost the existing, all the existing modules from ECC can be used. You can see them here. I've listed a lot of them there. So we saw, for instance, the sales and distribution SD. We saw that there. Then there are small adjustments there, but you can really quickly start using HANA with your old modules. There there's not you're not using the new technology, but you can continue with the way of working that you like you did before. But now it comes to beauty. Now you have these different new modules that that use all these state-of-the-art technology. So for your supply chain, you can do a lot of new things. You get all these nice graphs. You can do strategic planning. You can use different. You can use a lot of data. There's using HANA. You can also integrate with social media. So this gives a lot of new possibilities, and these new modules look really well modern and sleek. A lot of graphs are in there. So supply chain is an example. Purchase, Ariba. This is an example that companies have to make a different choice. So because the old purchase module from ECC is no longer around. So for HANA, so there you have to either use Ariba, which is the SAP solution for purchase, or maybe acquire some non-SAP solution. But there you really have to do something. So a specific thing in there, this is a nice example what is possible. There you can have a large B2B network attached to your purchase. So you can say, I want to buy something specific for my company. Let's say something, I want to have paper clips. Then you can say, you have this network connected. Send me an offer for paper clips. And then you can choose the best offer, and then immediately process the offer that you get from your connected businesses. Well, for travel, there is SAP Concur. This also means new technology is possible. So that you can that you can make your expenses using a mobile phone, scanning the expenses that you made, your tickets, so that they automatically come into the SAP system. They have a solution for customers, for suppliers. now. So as you can see, this build up here, there are a lot. They're bringing new solutions here. This is only these are only a few, but they're doing well as we speak new acquisitions, and they bring up new solutions. And you can see where this is going. Of course, these SAP modules, the traditional ones, will be replaced, or there will be alternatives for this in the near future. And so new stuff is coming there. So why is this platform so different? This S/4HANA, as I already said, it brings a lot of new possibilities, but also the core of it is different. It's everything is in memory. So they use in-memory technology, and that means that all your data is in an in-memory database, so it's directly accessible and therewith well, a lot faster. So if here you see 5 milliseconds would be for HANA 5 nanoseconds, and it has a different technology to make better use of this way of working. So it's kind of technical, but it's just well. Traditionally we have row storage. Now you will have column storage. And that means, because this is kind of technical, but in practice this means that you need there's less space needed for your data. So your whole data footprint will get leaner. So an example here I have traditional ECC, and if you go to HANA, you get less tables. That's one, and that the tables also take up less space.
Yeah, so you have less tables, but you have more fields in a table. So they work now more with views instead of no tables in the query.
Yeah. So here it is summarized, and to give the summarization of the summary here, S/4HANA means a smaller data footprint and lots of and really faster processing. And as an example here, you can see there are the ECC was really complex with a lot of different tables. And here there's it's really well gotten way more simple as an example. Well, let's get back to where we were, to the overview. So this is HANA. So HANA is a new world. It's where we were. So it gives a lot of more performance, and we already saw the Fiori interface that comes with it. More intuitive. It has designed that it can be used on all kinds of mobile devices, and the way that it is structured, it will give you an overview on specifically for your function, and it will only show those things that are relevant for you, so that you can make. It will give you support in making quick decisions. So here's the interesting part, I think, for our public now, because SAP tested. So what's happening for you as a user, but as a tester? So this system is end of life. There are a lot of systems in the Netherlands, so what can you do? Well, you could say, well, we're skipping SAP. Well, we'll get rid of it, or you have to do a redeployment to HANA, or you have to upgrade. Either way, you will have to do something before this 2027 in practice, you will see that ECC is still part of SAP testing, because it's not easy to get rid of ECC that quickly. So you will see a lot of hybrid systems, and that means that as a tester, you have to have this knowledge of ECC, because it's just part of your test scope. So the knowledge on what these modules do, what they look like, they will be around for quite some time. But if we're talking about HANA, then you're talking about a cloud solution, and this has quite an effect on your testing, on your way of testing, and the importance of testing. Because if you use these modules in the HANA cloud, then you get updates, and those are mandatory. You can't get around it. Yeah, you can make sometimes you could say, "Oh, I'm using a private cloud, and then I can postpone them a little bit." But if you use SAP cloud, so it is a service provided by SAP, you get them every 3 months, and they will come automatically. You can't get around this. So for on-premises, it could be 6 months, but still, then you have your update. And it can even be more extreme if you use SuccessFactors, which is for HR. Then you get a mandatory update every month. On top of that, using cloud solutions, you have limited test environments. So the traditional test environments that you would have in most SAP projects, so having a development environment, a test environment, acceptance environment, you will only get one test environment for your testing. So everything needs to be done there, and it can be quite a challenge. So you could say that your the testing gets way more under pressure. And one way to tackle this is, and that's well, I think that's what you see well everywhere now, is that there's more demand for test automation. Test automation will get more and more important, because you have to be able to quickly test your system more often. If you get this for instance, this SuccessFactors update every month, well, you need to have a quick way to check if everything is still working. You can't ask that to your business users every month. They will get really bored. That's for one. On this, asking that, it costs them time, of course, and also doing the same thing that often, and well, the accuracy will decrease rapidly. So can you add some comments there?
Yeah, no, I mean, what you were saying, if the organization goes for a 3-tier landscape, so you only have your development, test, and production, or you call it development, acceptance, and production. What will you test in your test environment, and who will test it? Because if you need to do your system integration test, and you need to do your user acceptance test, and you need to do your test automation, and maybe you also need to do a regression test, all in the same environment, you're asking for challenges and you're asking for problems. So you really need to align with a good planning, who will test what and when, and who has access to the system, who can modify the system, etc., etc. Because else you are aiming on a non-stop moving target, and you will not have grip on quality. So the grip on quality, if you have only one test environment, is a huge challenge. And then again, stakeholder management comes in place. You know, who is the owner? Who can you request to do something? Who will do what and when? Yeah, this is a big challenge, and also a big part of our project and our assignments when we are in the SAP world.
Yeah. Well, another thing is, with this new HANA database that has all these new technologies, which is really great. But so you have Fiori, but you also have artificial intelligence coming around. You have the RPA, so bringing in kind of robotization of processes. You have Internet of Things, connecting machines to your SAP landscape. For instance, if you have, let's give you an example from this client that I worked in Miele. They have now new washing machines, and those washing machines are connected to the internet. They talk to the system, and they tell how many times somebody has done their washing, so that they know we have to send in new washing liquids. That's one, but it also opens up new business processes that you can just simply, so to say, rent a washing machine based on the washing cycle. So you just pay for every washing cycle that you did. But then of course, this machine has to be connected to the internet. Well, this part, this will be another way of testing. Your scope can get really large. And you also have now different mobile devices where SAP is present on. Here, that's a new thing. Climate 21. SAP also has started now giving the possibilities to calculate what's your sustainability within your chain. So how many? So what does it mean for the and that's why it's called Climate 21. What does it mean for the climate in the way you work, so that you can demonstrate that you are working on that?
There's a whole sustainability platform, and also there you can calculate your carbon footprint and things like that, which is very hot at the moment. So it's very important to also investigate these kind of solutions. And to add on your previous topic, when you have, for example, your washing machine, and it is a smart device, it can also calculate how many times your door is getting open and closed, because they know maybe after 1,000 times or after 10,000 times the door needs to have some maintenance. So they can do some predictive analytics. They know this door has been opened now 9,000 times. Okay, we can send a service guy to the laundry factory or whatever, and they can do the maintenance on the door. And you can really predict what is needed with this IoT, but all the data needs to be collected, of course, and get it in SAP. You run your analytics, your AI, your deep learning, and your predictive analytic reports. This is where it all goes.
Yeah. So overall, your test complexity, it increases. So make sure that you make good the proper agreements on your testing assignment. What will I incorporate in my scope? Will we also do the Internet of Things part there, or will it be out of scope, or will we put it on at a later time? So how will you manage this complexity? It's new. It's a challenge.
It can also really get complex, because this is then called edge computing, because these machines are all around the edge computing. Do they have connectivity to the system, so via Wi-Fi or not? What is the performance? Do they really perform correct? In what frequency will they send the data to SAP? You can also test this with performance testing. Does the company want that? So you can also expand the testing services here.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a small break so that everybody can get away from the screen for a few minutes, and then we'll pick up in 5 minutes. So 11:10. Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
see you in 5 minutes. 11:10. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, back again.
Yep.
Brian, you're also there. Yeah.
Yep.
So SAP offer Society also offers some solutions for testing SAP. We have practices which offers a test strategy and an approach for testing of SAP. So there you have the different parts of SAP that are used in your that you can use together with a product risk analysis. So where are the risks in my system, together with your test base, and that will be, and that's then related to quality characteristics, your activities, possible design techniques, and that will then deliver your SAP strategy and approach. So this is way too short to go into details, but well, this is one of the solution that will help you setting up your test strategy. Then there is a new, and this is recently relatively new, iCaptivate. iCaptivate is developed with Agile in mind, for Agile implementation. Pepijn has worked on the development of this iCaptivate, specifically then of course for the testing part. It gives a lot of well, possibilities and already developed solutions within your that you can use for your SAP project. So Pepijn, you can you well elaborate a little bit on this iCaptivate?
Yeah, I will keep it brief. So iCaptivate is actually an extension of the SAP Activate methodology. The SAP Activate methodology is an implementation methodology. So how SAP would recommend to start your project, to do your project, and it has several phases. As Capgemini Group and Society, we extended this approach and developed the iCaptivate methodology. With the phases of prepare, foundation, blueprint, or blueprint, sorry, the test phase, deploy, and actually the go live support and after go live support. So you only see here actually one bubble, one cloud with testing. But testing is not only involved in this one bubble called testing. Actually, we should be involved from the prepare phase. Because what is important, that what I said in the beginning, when you start with the project, you need to create awareness with all your stakeholders. They all need to look in the same direction. What kind of quality is needed? What do we want? And what do we need? And how does it need to look like at the end of the whole journey? And in this whole journey, then when you start in the prepare phase, you can create your foundations. You can create your templates, you can create your test cases, you do static reviews. So before even the code is built or the solution is developed, you can already read the documents, you can already read the user stories, or maybe the business blueprint, what is often used for SAP projects. And this static testing can already lead to early finding of defects or anomalies, what can be corrected. But also in this phase, you can determine your test strategy. So you will conduct a quality risk analysis where you indicate which processes or which modules or which step are most at risk, and you can focus your testing and your test cases on that area as well. If you have sufficient time, you can test everything, but we never have sufficient time because testing is always under pressure, and then we can prioritize to focus on the highly risk areas first, and if we have additional time, we will test then also the medium and the low areas, but else we only focus on the high and the critical areas first. This can all be done in the prepare/foundation phase. And then when we go into the blueprint phase, and during the foundation phase, Also, then the developers or your system integrator, they are actually configuring or using enhancements to make the system ready for testing. And then when you are in the blueprint phase, you work in cycles, and in my opinion, development can go very well with agile approach or the Scrum approach or a safe approach, whatever you will call it. They do their own testing. We call that the vertical testing. So they test their own module or maybe their own sprint, their tiny little thing, or whatever, how big the sprint will be. But at the end, in the blueprint phase, you will deploy all the developments to the test environment, and we need to test the end-to-end processes. So all the small developments, they are now connected somehow to each other, and we need to test it in an integration test. And here at the end of the blueprint phase, in the beginning of the test phase, here we will focus on the UAT, the regression test, and the end-to-end testing. So what I just called the horizontals, you will test in your sprints, or the verticals you will test in your sprints, but the horizontals, the whole end-to-end scenarios, you will test in your test environment or in your test phase here. And then if needed during the deploy phase, you can do a pre-production test, and hopefully when we have created this all, you have some test automation created, you have some additional test cases that can be reused, because when you reach in the support phase and there will be a production incident that will be fixed, we already have test cases on the shelf that we can reuse to support go live and to support the maintenance. So actually, in every bubble what you see here, we integrated our team map methodology, and we picked the best practices to implement in this whole flow. So again, it's not only focused on the test bubble. Testing or quality awareness, is how do you say that nice? No, it should embrace your DNA. Quality is in your DNA. We cannot test quality into the system, what is often thought so, but no, you need to implement quality from the beginning. So we need to be involved in the prepare phase and put our recommendations, put our demands, put our acceptance, entry criteria, accept criteria, quality criteria. We need to put it there. We need to be completely transparent to everyone. This is what we're going to do. And at the end, you will have a go, no go decision, but it's completely transparent. And everything what we have done, we shared with the system integrator, we shared with the functional consultants, with the technical consultant, and then based on that report and the quality risk what we have done, okay, this scenario is passed, this scenario is not passed, this scenario is passed, and then the reason why is it not passed, what is the risk, we make that completely visible in this whole journey. So this is actually iCaptivate in a nutshell. And
it's really large.
It's really large. So this is also not 1 week. No, this can be months to maybe 6 months of all kind of activities what you need to do, even longer.
Yeah. And this is aligned with the SAP Activate, so what SAP recommends in how to approach your testing. This is aligned to this, well, this gives you a really good method to structure your SAP project if you want to work in an agile way.
And one key component actually here, and again I come back to awareness and to ownership, is called your OCM. OCM is organizational change management. Of course, we do testing, we implement a new system, but as soon as you implement a new system, you also implement a new way of working. And that means that the organization needs to be ready, the organizational readiness, to start using these new processes, procedures, systems, whatever. So OCM, you also already saw it, OCM is a component in every bubble of the journey. And there we also play, in my opinion, a major role to help the organization to create the readiness, the production readiness. And this is often underestimated, how important this OCM is. So this has nothing to do with technical. This is all to do with preparing the organization to start using the new system and the new procedures.
Yeah, because a lot of change is involved there, and that's often overlooked, not addressed enough. but this well, it makes it part of your agile journey. Here you come across OCM, you come across it during foundation, and you come across it during the build print. So it's an integrated part of it.
And there again, you see the link to stakeholder management.
Yeah, this is really a kind of a new and cool development, which gives lots of possibilities to structure. Well, in addition, we also have a TPI for SAP, test process improvement. So and it has been adjusted for SAP projects. Oh, there's something. Well, what? Let me go back. I think there's a. Yeah. Let's go back here. The test pros. Yeah. So you have specific questions then aiming at how am I testing my SAP? What can I improve? Can improve here? We'll continue to test automation, important part of SAP testing. Yeah, as we already saw, it's more and more important. So there is a test automation tool assessment, which gives you recommendations for test automation. I'll not go into more details on this to make sure that we can do within time. And of course, then, well, which is you have these different kinds of frameworks, smaller or larger. But one important thing, of course, is your SAP testing skills. Based on how you can use your experience in finding ways to test the assignment that you have and prepare things properly and of course conduct your testing, because you have so many players here. Within your project.
And I think when you click on it, so maybe a lot of us are familiar with the T-shaped model, but I really think it's not the T-shaped model anymore. It's more like the X-shaped model. If you just click, the whole picture should be there, I think.
Yeah, that gets here.
So this one. So it's more like an X-shaped model because, of course, you have your communication skills, your people, your stakeholder management. We already mentioned that. You also need to work on your own skills, certifications, tooling, specific tooling. What kind of test automation tool will I use? What kind of SAP modules will I use? Do I get the training in that? Yes or no? What kind of test management tool do I use? Is it ALM? Is it Tester Suite? Is it maybe Solution Manager? So you need to be aware and familiar with all kind of testing procedures, test toolings, of course the soft and the hard skills. So the soft skills also often is underestimated. I think the soft skills are very important because you need to communicate with all layers of the project, what I already indicated, the technical people, but also with the business people, but also with the project people, so they all communicate on a different level. And here one of the most important thing is choose the battles you want to win, because you cannot win from quality perspective. You want to win every battle, but you cannot win all the battles. So choose the battles which are really important and fight those battles. Stand for your stands for the quality in these areas. But furthermore, you need to be aware of similar approaches. So we have the test services and the test strategy approaches. Will we use only a regression test, or do we also do UAT? Will we also do performance testing? Will we do security testing, the non-functional testing, name it? It should all be there. So you need to be aware of all these possibilities. And last but not least, is also the technology platform. So first, of course, you need to be aware of the latest technologies and the latest development in SAP. But what for example will happen if we find a defect, and it still occurs when we find a defect which cannot be solved with the project team. We need to create a defect or register actually an OSS node. That's how it's called in the SAP portal. So SAP needs to look at that. So someone needs to follow it up. Someone needs to chase them. Someone needs to chase the SAP people as well. So you see, it's not only T-shape. It's actually more X-shape, because you need to communicate, go everywhere where you think it's possible in the whole organization.
Yeah, so it's a large skill set, but this details it out on the specific parts that there are and what you can do to to acquire this knowledge and be effective as a SAP testing consultant. So we have a little over half an hour left. Let's go into some detail. What is testing of SAP modules? What does it look like? What do you encounter there? Therefore, we use a sample test script, order to cash, of the ones who have done some SAP training. It will look familiar to them because it's often being used as a demo process. And there, if you're talking then as an example here for our order to cash, we have finance involved there, SAP FICO, we have sales, where therefore we have the module SAP SD, and we have warehouse SAP MM. If you go then, we'll go through to your process. So you start with a quotation. This is what this is what's been asked. Then when this quotation gets approved, you get a sales order. That's been done then from SD. So you start from SD. That's where your process starts. Where you also, of course, then where your testing starts. Then you get your sales order. That needs to be also approved there. So there's a credit limit check there on the customer side. So does our customer have enough credit left? And of course, there's then the check on availability. Is there enough stock so that we can deliver our order? It gets unblocked, and then you get back to SD, where you can do your delivery. You pick your order. That's something that's being handled from MM. You do your picking, handled from MM. You do your post goods issue, and then it gets back to finance, and there there the billing is done, and the actual payment. And along with that, cost and profit places, all these things are also part of FICO. So that's and here you see that your process is split over three, well, often called streams: finance, sales, and warehouse, and 3 modules.
Yeah, to give a more tangible example. For example, I've done a project for a sport brand. They sell shoes. So now we like a wholesaler like a Decathlon or maybe a Foot Locker. They want to purchase these shoes, so they ask for a quotation for a specific type of shoe. That quotation will lead into a sales order. Then, of course, we need to check the credit check from the Foot Locker, or are they able to pay because they don't buy one shoe, no, they maybe buy 10,000 of shoes. So are they able to pay? They all kind of processes to do the credit check. But of course, if you want to have 10,000 shoes of a specific size, color, and name it, and type, you need to check your availability. And connected to the availability can also be your what is it, product planning. So you need to probably go to the warehouse or to your factory to produce these shoes. That can be connected to this. In this example, not. Now, when the credit check is done, then they unblock the sales order, so the sales order can continue. If they don't pass the credit check, the sales order will not continue, and it will just stop here because we did the check. They're not credit worthy, but maybe they're all blacklisted. No, that could be with some companies, maybe in the Far East or whatever. So they do all these kind of checks, and if they trust it, they will continue. You do the delivery, you go into your warehouse. So you have some warehouse clerks. They really go with the order. They go into the warehouse. They do the picking of these shoes. They do the packing of the shoes. They do the shipping of the shoes. Now the post goods issues is there. Then the invoices are created. The accounting documents are created, and eventually the payment is there, and your customer is happy. The shoes are delivered, and they can start selling. And what you see here now, it's a SAP SD where we do the sales. What I mentioned earlier, it could also be that you do this quotation part and the sales order part, you do it in an SRM or a CRM system like Salesforce. And now we also go into SAP MM, so it's the warehouse of SAP. It can also be an external warehouse, which is not SAP. Now, that makes it already a little bit more complicated, that only the finance processes are in SAP. In this example, it's everything in SAP, but this is how complex it can go.
Yeah, so a lot of different possibilities. So end-to-end means that that you have to really at the situation that you have at your client, what does my end-to-end process look like? And it can be really different, as Pepijn already said. This SD can be a non-SAP Salesforce, for instance, and your warehouse can be external. So it's really different from client to client. The modules, but also you use data on this in this environment. So you need data that fits the whole process. If you make orders that don't have pricing on it, with products that don't have pricing on it, well, you get stuck somewhere. If you use materials that are on the wrong profit and cost centers, then you will get into trouble when you get to finance, and they will say, well, those are the wrong materials that you use. I need them on a different cost and profit center, so start over. So you have to detail these things out from the beginning and involve all the stakeholders in your process.
And this process can even get more complex, for example, if you start using dangerous goods. So you also have a lot of companies now that the chemicals or whatever, they're also considered as dangerous goods or high valuable goods. They are treated differently, and you need to have additional safety documents or clearance documents, or maybe custom documents from customs that are safe to be transported. This all needs to be part of master data as well. And they will probably also be handled differently in a warehouse, because some products combinations cannot be stored next to each other. They need to be stored in a different section of the warehouse. They need to be frozen or fridged in the warehouse. So it's fun to work with, but it's complex to set it up.
So here, as a example, you can see with what all happens then in this process. For the different kind of modules that are being used there, what does it look like in traditional SAP? So you log on, and this is here you have your selection screen. Here you have your detailed screen for your order. You bring in the different materials. There you go. Then your delivery.
And this is done with another user, because you also have the segregation of duties here.
This is to give you all some idea about what's behind such an example end-to-end process. So a lot of different SAP transactions. There are different users involved there. So that also means, because you see here log on, log off, that you have different test executioners. So also something to think about in your testing approach is that well, how does the one tester notify the different the next one in the process that they can do their part of testing? Well, here you get into the billing document. So here we have a finance part.
And then you do the check of your document. And what's often used in validating the process is the document flow. So there is a specific transaction or specific header details where you can go into your document flow and actually check if all the documents are created what is needed for this particular process. And if one document is missing, for example, your cost accounting document is missing, or maybe your post goods issue or your post goods receipt is missing, then you know that the flow is breaking. We need to create a defect or an incident, and that needs to be solved first before we can continue with this flow. So the document flow is also very important to check during your testing.
Yeah. So we're talking about order to cash. That this was our example end-to-end process. But if you have a specific client that you're working on, they have lots of these end-to-end processes. So order to cash is only one example. And there you often you see that there is a lead stream who's owner of this process. So for sales would be then the owner of your order to cash, but there are also other end-to-end processes. So finance is the owner of a thing like a standard cost estimate, and they are then the ones that you have to approach on well, how do you want to test this? Who's going to test this? So you have different streams. I only showed 3 streams here: finance, OMS for ordering and sales. But you also have a purchase. Could be a stream. The purchase department. So those. That means that you get a lot of these end-to-end processes. So what I'm showing here is an example out of practice, but is only in this case what I'm showing here is only, I think, about 10% of the total end-to-end processes that they have. So this also as an example how large your test scope can be. So going back to our order to cash, so this is the way then you work out your test script. So sales has to do something, create a quotation. You have a responsible tester there, and like this you work out the process. So for the different streams that have to do a certain part there, and then you most often get a kind of test script like this. In SAP environments, there is not too much time to work out test script. So test script is most of the times quite globally, not too much detail in there. If you're lucky like this, there are some expected results, but a lot is depending on the knowledge of your tester. So the testers have the knowledge of the system, and they have this in their well, to say in their heads. They know how to use this transaction code. So you also depend a lot of this, a lot on who's involved in your project, as an SME, as your subject matter expert. They know how the system works, and yeah, there's simply not that much time to deliver, to create scripts.
Yeah, when you create scripts, it's more high over, because in SAP there are 10 to 20 ways to execute a specific flow, and they all result to the same, or they all result to the same outcome. So it's very hard to describe one specific way of working, because you work maybe via this flow, but your colleague is doing exactly the same, but he's using this flow, and that's all possible in SAP. So it's more important that you validate the outcome instead of how you do it, what kind of process you use.
Yeah, so in this example, you can see that Arie de Groot, he's the person doing the testing. But at the end, you can see here there's a FICO check. Often SAP end-to-end processes most often end in the books. So in the finance part, so some check needs to be done there. Did things end up properly in the financial administration?
Yeah. And keep in mind, almost everything you do in SAP will lead to a financial transaction. Even if you do a stock movement, so you move one article to another shelf, it can lead to a financial transaction or a financial step, what needs to be validated. You move it from one cost center to a profit or a profit center or cost center, that needs to be validated. So everything you do in SAP will lead to a financial impact.
Well, to get this working, you need to have agreements on master data, and often this is as a separate Excel sheet and attached to the script, so that you make sure that you use the correct plans, storage locations, vendors, and so on in your testing, so that it delivers the right results for everybody involved in your process. So what's important there? Being said already, agreement on required master data. So what do you use? How will you make sure that it ends up in the expected cost and profit centers and at the end of your process? Who are your responsible testers? You need a tester who can do the sales part, who can do the finance part, and who have the sufficient knowledge on there how to test it, because there is not that much detail in the scripts. The details are in the heads of the testers. So you really have to make sure that you appoint the correct testers that have this specific knowledge on this specific part, so that this can be done when it needs to be done. Otherwise, your whole process just stops, and you can't get things finished. Agree on the test procedure, of course, is therefore important. So make the proper agreements in your test procedure, that everybody is available at the same time. So we're gonna test. We're gonna do testing, or the to cash will be done at this time. We need this person from sales, finance, OMS, and make sure that they notify each other directly when they have done their part, and if they succeeded or not, and that you also, as a test manager, are aware where your process is at, and that it not gets halted anywhere. So timetable arrangements are also required there, so that you know where things are. One last part: successful test automation. Well, that's a whole different ball game, so to say. Test automation, but for to do successful test automation, certain things need to be in place. Yeah, you need to have structure in your project. Otherwise, you can't do successful test automation. But it is more and more important to that you keep an eye on this. That at the somewhere in my project we're gonna do test automation. So make sure that you in your test design, test data management, that you keep track of these things. So data-driven testing is becoming really important to be able to do successful and quick test automation. Therefore, test data is really important. Yeah, and that's an overall thing. There's a lot of costs are hidden in the fact that your test data is not aligned. So therefore, you need test data management, and that test data management, things are changing really quickly. All these updates that you have on one side, but also in the business, things are changing really quickly. So making this test data, making sure that it's properly organized will save you a lot of time. That's because in practice you lose when it comes to test execution, you lose a lot of time in finding the correct test data. You think you have the right material, but it all of a sudden it's not the right material because it has no pricing attached to it, and so on.
Yeah, the test data is the heart of your whole test process. And in my current assignment, what I currently see, for example, so the test data is either it's not available, it's not set up correctly, and even if it's set up correctly and it is available, maybe there is not enough stock. So you first need to create stock so you can put it in a sales order or whatever. So there are so many variances on test data to make it available and to make it ready for testing. Yeah, if the test data is not properly set up, it really slows you down in test execution. And because we always have a limited testing time, we have a hard deadline, we have a hard go live date. Testing is always under pressure. So again, if you look at that whole the flow that I showed you with iCaptivate, make sure in the prepare and foundation phase that this test data is available at the best way it can be. So we cannot solve everything in the beginning. Of course, you will have incidents and findings during the testing. That's normal, but you can already prevent a lot of these things by setting it up properly all the way in the beginning. Also, in many processes or projects, data migration is needed because you go from the ECC system to SAP system, or maybe with the greenfield implementation, you go from an external system to SAP. Maybe you can make agreements that as soon as data migration is ready, you can get a copy of that data, put it into your test system, so you have production-like test data to test with. That will save you a lot instead of you have to configure all the data yourself to make it available for testing. But that also has an impact on your test planning, because that means that your test data migration needs to be done before you start testing. It's not a parallel project, it's actually a sequence project. And that has demands on the way or how you run your project. So there you need to fight the battle with your project lead or program owners, or maybe even stakeholders higher above that in the steering committees or whatever. So that's all part of your approach.
So if you take a look at a typical SAP landscape, there is a change, and it is being done. All different applications are affected by this change. So you need to be aware of that you and understand your SAP data. Because Evo talked earlier before on customization, so a lot of on the data you can change the behavior of SAP. Therefore, you can bring in profit centers, cost centers, company codes, and then next part is you bring in your master data. This is really the base of all what you're going to do in your processes. If you have this master data in place, you will need to organize conditional master data. So these are bills of material, and bill of materials is, for instance, an article which is composed out of other articles. Information records and pricing should be in place. So you need to have pricing on the on your materials, and that's being done by finance. So there you need the finance department to make sure that pricing is in place.
Yeah, and conditional in this case also means that maybe in different seasons you have different pricings, or in different regions or different countries you have different prices. So you need to maintain and update your master data non-stop. The conditionals of the master data, they can change over time each period.
Yeah,
and
so lots of possibilities there. When all this data is organized in a proper way, then you can really create your orders, for instance, and then we're talking about transactional data. And then also all kinds of reporting is possible. Well, these layers are called SAP data classes. And what you see is that when you go from the bottom of your pyramid to the top, they are becoming more dynamic. So this configuration data doesn't change too much. There is some more change in master data, even more on conditional data, and reporting changes all the time. And the master data combined with your configuration data are called the enterprise data requirements. That is the base that you need to have in place to start working with SAP. So also that in your when you create your testing data, you need to make sure that those two items, you at least have them organized. And also, for if you want to do test automation, you at least need to have this configuration data and master data, and then you can decide on, I'm going to make this conditional master data, I'm going to create it using scripts, and I will create transactional data using scripts. But if you don't have configuration data, you don't have the proper master data, well, you simply can't. You're out of business. Then you cannot create your scripts. But you could turn it upside down as the pyramid, and there you can see. And then it says something about your data volume. So there's a little bit of configuration data. There's more master data, and as you go up, you will find high data volumes. So that's 2 slides on the understanding of how test data in SAP is built up. So taking a closer look at this configuration data, if you have a sports company, that sports company has different subsidiaries underneath it. So one in Germany, one in the Netherlands. You have central purchasing that has been done on different locations, and then it delivers finished products. And a little part of it for quality assurance. And when this is configured in SAP, it looks like this. You have the different codes for it. You have a client 100 that has different company codes underneath it, different plants, storage locations. So working on your end-to-end scripts, you also have this extra layer of your test data that is underneath it, and there you have to have pictures like this so that you understand what you need to have in place in order to properly test these scenarios.
Yeah, and what you see in here, a typo is easily made. So if you go from company code 1000 to company code 2000, you're in a different country and you try to process something, and then you get an error because no, this product is not available for company code 2000. It's only available for company code 1000. So if you put something in your master data and it should only relate to company 1000, but you test it for 2000. Yeah, these kind of things will happen, and you will encounter that during your testing processes. That means again that your master data is not properly set up.
Yeah.
Volkan, also looking at the time, we have five more minutes left. Of course, we can continue, but also let's see if people have questions, so we can cover them in the last 5 minutes. Because we can.
That's maybe good. I have some more slides, and I can together with Pepijn, we can talk for hours on this subject. So, any questions at this time?
We got a few questions, Volkan. The last question, and maybe that's a nice one to talk about. Maurice was wondering what kind of test automation tool we used for the SAP testing process you showed in the movie. I believe it was Tosca, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Tosca.
Yeah. So the most used tool I think nowadays will be Tosca in combination with SAP. It's not exclusive. As soon as you have your SAP license, then there is a Tosca license included. It's a light license, so it's only test automation. You can only do limited amount of things. So it's only related to SAP. You cannot test or test automate your legacy systems. But also therefore we recommend to use Tosca. But there will be companies that also use maybe other kind of tooling, Selenium or Worksoft, or other kind of test automation solutions, Qualibrate. So a tool assessment is always needed when you start doing test automation. Also there, don't underestimate test automation. Before you can actually do test automation, there is a lot of pre-work what needs to be done by selecting the test tool, setting up the test tool, configure the test tool, make it available, that the test tool is communicating with all your systems, what needs to be automated, and most often that is in the cloud, so there will be integrations. Maybe it's also via a portal, it needs to be whitelisted. Often the setup of a test tool takes a couple of months, and if you also want to do overnight execution, distributed execution, you need to configure some agents. It's not done overnight. It will take a lot of time before you really can start scripting, because you need to have your whole test automation framework set up, and that will take time.
Yeah.
Question, Thijs?
Yeah, I think this was the main question. There was another question about, well, maybe that's interesting to take to have it in this meeting as well. It was about the OTAP street and the test environment disappearing, and it means that you have to test an acceptance environment. And there will be a lot of changes in the meanwhile. Do you recognize this?
Absolutely. So when I start with a test project, one of my first questions always is, I want to know the overview of the landscape. So do we have a 3-tier or a 4-tier landscape? Because that will determine how I will set up my test strategy. If I have a 4-tier landscape, which is my recommendation, my life as a test manager will become way more easier, because you have a segregation of duty. You can do your system integration test, maybe your functional test you can do in your test environment, but as soon as it's handed over to us, we are responsible for the acceptance or quality environment. Then we can start doing the UAT, the regression test, the end-to-end testing. It will make life way more easier. And what you also see on the screen, maybe we have a different client specifically for test automation. You can also create a client for test automation in your quality environment, and then you can segregate the test activities in different clients. If you need to do this all in one environment, yeah, you need to have proper planning and proper agreements. Who is doing what and when? If we don't have that, and for example, if I'm testing an end-to-end scenario right now with business users, and in the background the developers are deploying new code in my test environment, which I also use for my UAT, yeah, then my whole scenario or my process can be impacted by the new deployment or the new transactions transports done by the release manager, and impact my whole test scenario. So is my test scenario still valid, yes or no? My recommendation is then no, it's not valid because we don't know what's impacted. We need to start over again. But that's again a battle you need to fight, and this is one of the battles I like to win as a test manager, because it's really important. You want to have grip on quality, and if people are changing the code in the background without my knowledge, I don't know what I'm testing. And I think, Volker, you agree with that, isn't it?
Yeah. So that being said, what you're all explaining there, when you get in the situation that you have a HANA module with only one test environment, well, you really have to tackle this from the beginning, because everybody will want to do something on this environment, development, training, and they will all get in your way of being able to do proper testing. So that's it's a tricky area.
And also not easy to manage.
No, for sure. Yeah, so it is 12 now. As I said, there's a lot of more to be told. I think there are a few more slides, but we'll just stop here. And I hope it was all interesting for everybody. And if you you're interested and you want to hear more, learn more, there is the possibility to have the whole training and then organized by the Society Academy. So then just reach out, and there's way more to
and a lot of topics that we just covered, and we do understand it's a lot of information in this 2-hour period, but when we do the 2-day training, we really deep dive in a lot of these areas and go way more slower than we currently did, and explain things more.
Yeah, and with some more real life examples from the different projects that we've been in. Okay, thanks everybody. Thijs, you want to have some last words?
Yeah, I wanted to say thanks to you, Volker and Pepijn, for the last 2 hours. If anyone's got any question regarding SAP testing, don't hesitate and get in contact with us. You can find our email address is really easy, or I will put it in the chat anyway. But just reach out via mail, LinkedIn, or whatever. I am hoping that everyone enjoyed this webinar, this power training, and see you on the next one.
Thank you all, and have a very good weekend.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.